Hello everybody and welcome to the entertainment headquarters and welcome to a very special stream tonight. This is dedicated to none other than Mr. Steven Spielberg. That's right, legendary film director, writer and producer that has created so many amazing films that are, I would 100% think, anywhere from the late 70s to the 80s to the 90s to probably the early 2000s. He has been the director of many people's lives and childhoods, and he has also, of course, created some of the best blockbusters and memorable movies of all time.
Yeah.
And to talk about this amazing man and his work, I have got with me a host of amazing guests that will be talking about their favourite moments and memories of Steven Spielberg, or even maybe talking about their favourite production of a film, whatever they wish to talk about. And of course, first and foremost, we have Mr. Jerry Granville of Jerry Granville Productions. We have Mr. Dan Miller of Dan Filming, aka The Professor.
Good evening.
And finally, we have the Kaiju Enigma Ultra Cheek. Yes, welcome, gentlemen. So, Steven Spielberg, what a career. And despite his age of 79-year-old, nearly 80-year-old,
which he'll be turning this year.
Yes, which he'll be turning this year. We turn 80 this year. I don't think he's slowing down.
Yeah.
You know, he's made 37 movies in total. He has produced so many amazing other content. He's been, executive producer on so many different franchises. Transformers is the one that jumps to mind. The Indiana Jones films, very much involved in there. Even had conversations and I think worked with George Lucas a little bit on the Star Wars franchise. Yeah, absolutely. But, he's just a legend. So, to start things off, I'll talk a little bit about Mr. Steven Spielberg. So his name is Steven Allen Spielberg. He was born on December the 18th, 1946. He is, of course, an American filmmaker, a major figure of the new Hollywood era, and pioneer of the modern blockbuster. Spielberg is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential filmmakers in the history of cinema, and is the highest-grossing film director of all time. Among other accolades, he has received 3 Academy Awards, 4 Golden Globe Awards, 4 BAFTA Awards, 12 Emmy Awards, a Tony Award, and a Grammy Award. So basically, he is one of those people that has got, I think, is it called the when you get all the major awards?
EGOT. Pretty much.
I think he's, to my knowledge, is the only film director that has got an EGOT, which is all major awards. Outside of those awards, he has, achieved an AFI Lifetime Achievement Award in 1995, an honorary knighthood in 2001, the Kennedy Center Honors in 2006, the Cecil B. DeMille Award in 2009, the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015, and the National Medal of Art in 2023. According to Forbes, he is one of the world's wealthiest celebrities with a net worth of at least $5.3 billion. He is one of 22 people to achieve the EGOT status. So nothing to be scoffed at right there. What a career. I'm going to go around and ask you all your first earliest memory of Steven Spielberg's work. And to add on to that question, I want you to, in your words, for you, when did you realize Steven Spielberg was as influential as he became? We'll start right at the top with Mr. Jedi Granville.
Well, my first introduction to Mr. Spielberg. Oh boy, when I say it like this, it's gonna sound funny. We had to travel back in time to a time when things were simpler and things were much more, or say less chaotic. And this is back in the 70s, and I was introduced to a little television film called Duel. I didn't know what it was about. I had no idea. I saw it one late night with my brother, and I figured, like, okay, I'll watch this. And from what I gathered from watching this, when you're like, 6 or 7 year old. No, in fact, I was 6 years old. When you watch a film like this, you're kind of like, okay, where is it going with? I mean, where is it? But then you realize, like, oh wow, there's someone trying to kill this man. Then it's Dennis Weaver's character, and he's like just taking his truck, trying to kill him. I mean, not taunt him, really put the fear of God into him. And I'm just kind of like, what? I mean, of course, like I say, of course, I'm a child. I don't really understand the dynamics of why a person would do this. But as I'm watching it, I realize, like, there's going to be a point where he's just going to have enough. And, in the end, we see he defeats in a very primitive way with this truck, and the way the truck goes over the cliff, and you hear this music just kind of like give this verbatim and letting you know it's like this is the end of not just the truck, but of the person who's trying. Because in the way you don't even know if it's the truck is actually being driven. Is it just a phantom of itself? You don't really know. But that was my first introduction, and sometime later I would get to see my first theatrical, but I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on television. I would get to see Jaws with my aunt, and this is before we had cable. She was the only one who had cable at the time. And this, like I say, this shows how far back I'm talking about. This is. I'm showing my age. My God. We would watch it, and the funny thing is, she didn't have color. She had black and white. But to tell you the truth, I'm kind of glad it was in black and white because Jaws is a little bit more graphic than most people give it credit for. It's a little bit more gory for a PG film.
Yeah, well, I've got a story about that. So, before you continue, you've mentioned how Jaws got a PG rating. Right. Well, the thing is, when Jaws first was released, there was no such thing as PG.
Nope.
So what happened is you basically had kid-friendly films, or you went straight to the adult films. So Steven Spielberg knew, because of the film and the frenzy it created when people are frightened to go to the beaches and so forth, because of the experience of Jaws, he knew that there was something missing. So he actually went to the board of what's it called?
Certification.
Certification in America, and he spoke to the president and said, listen, because of what happened with Jaws, is there any way we can create a rating or something in between children and young adults and then adults? And because of that, the PG rating was created. That was the influence that Steven Spielberg once again had on New Hollywood.
Which is interesting because it really was a combination of The Temple of Doom and Gremlins, two of the films that he had a hand in, and it's like they both showed a massive sense of very intense scenes. So it's like it would make sense to say let's have an in between PG and R, and it's like there you go. So it's like it makes sense. And who would ever think a film director would have that much clout to create that kind of influence like that? But no, Jaws. Getting back to that, when I first watched it, I can honestly say, because I was about 8 years old, I can honestly say watching it, I was 7, I'm sorry, 7 years old. I can honestly say something in me kind of twitched in the back of my mind. It's like, this is not the director I was thinking, or whoever directing this is, because I didn't know the name yet. I couldn't really read that good, so at time I would, and then when I found out who he was, it's like, wow, this man is really got a hand in how he does things. So after that, there would be other films that I would see, like of course Close Encounters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, of course E.T., but I would not see E.T. until like years later, and various other films that he had a hand in, and I'm just kind of like, wow, this man is really got the Midas touch. He's anything he touches turns to gold in a sense. I mean, true enough, like any decent director, he's going to have, a few misses. But that's the way of knowing you're a good director, because it's like you're willing to take risk. Whatever risk you take, it's going to either bounce. I mean, it's either going to fall or fly. And let's be honest, most of his films have flown and they become iconic. So in my mind, I feel that Jaws was the one that really made me realize like who this director is going to be. But I would never know how much in the stratosphere he would really go. I would never know this, because it's all about with him, not so much his clout in the industry, is his respect of how he delivers a film and how he does it, because he does it so well. And he would eventually go on to make films that it's like, well, Spielberg's name's attached to it. It's like, oh, let me go check it out. And that would be the end of it.
Yes. Daniel Miller.
Right. Now, I have a story to tell about the first movie I remember watching from start to finish. The story is, I was roughly 4 at the time. I was bored and I was looking out for
Yo.
hello. I was trying to find something to watch, so I looked in the VHS cabinet underneath the TV, and one of them was this movie. I have the Blu-ray here because I can't find my VHS for some reason, but it was this movie,
Nice.
Yours. So I looked at it and said, "Well, this looks scary, but hey, the VHS had a PG rating on the front, so it must be fine, right?"
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I answered my own question by watching that movie. But as much as it scared me, the way that Spielberg presented it, not just as a filmmaker, as a director, but also as a visual storyteller or auteur, it immediately got me interested in the characters. I was immediately taken into this fictional world of Amity Island, and I was just completely mesmerized, scared, and amazed all at once. Now, there is a key moment in here, and this, among the many other little stories and facets about Jaws, makes it one of my all-time favorite movies. This is a movie I hold very dear to me because it's the scene where Richard Dreyfuss's character is lowered into the fish tank, into the shark cave.
The fish tank.
I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah.
I mean, just lower him into the fish
That's
tank.
one freaking big fish tank.
Yeah. Yeah. He's lowered into the cave.
Yes.
And he's adjusting his goggles, and all of a sudden, he just freezes in place. We then cut to a shot of this shadow emerging from the distance with that John Williams Jaws motif building up in the background, and it's just on strings, like stringed instruments, no percussion, no horns, just the strings. Yes, that is one massive fish tank. But yeah, that whole sequence where the shark just swims by the cage, it's just the music playing, and then it just disappears into the murk in the distance.
Yes.
That was the moment for me when I had no idea how to articulate it then, but that was the moment that said, I want to be able to make that one day. And as I grew older, I started watching Jaws a bit more after growing maturing in years, and then learning more about the intricacies of filmmaking and film theory and all of that. This was really a movie that set that not only it sparked my imagination in terms of storytelling, whether it be in fiction or in whatever, but this was also the thing that made me sure on what I wanted to do with my life when I grew up, and that was to get into making movies. And if I hadn't have seen Jaws, I probably would not have taken an interest in movies, how they're made, and as well as talking about them, as well as watching them. Because when I grew older and I found the film on DVD, it was a 2-disc edition where it had bonus features like behind the scenes. I was watching the making of documentary with interviews with Roy Scheider, Lorraine Gary, Spielberg, and Peter Benchley and Carl Gottlieb, and how everyone worked on this story. All of the problems that occurred with the mechanical shark, the problems had with filming out in the ocean, and it definitely has had a profound impact on me. And not once since the age of 4 have I been watching Jaws. I have never been tired of it. And and still, even if it's just going into the swimming pool, there's always that little inkling of faith, like, okay, I'm doing press stroke. I push my head down toward the water and I come up for breathing. How do I know that there's not a 25-foot great white shark that somehow got into a chlorine swimming pool and is just playing the Jaws theme on the violin and it's just about to snatch me and pull me under and I'd never get out of the pool again?
It might be the ghost of Bruce coming at you. You never know.
Maybe.
You must have watched Ghost Shark.
but
Now,
Jaws is probably his one of his most influential films. Because let's face it, without the success of Jaws, I think Duel got unnoticed 100% because of his cinematography, because his directorial style, his great storytelling, and his in-depth character building. Like with Duel, for example, there's only two main characters and you don't even see the villain.
No.
It's basically just the main actor and his emotions against this guy that's trying to knock him off the road in his car.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Jaws, Jaws, obviously, as we know, it is the film that in 1975 created the summer blockbuster genre, which is still strong today. Every major studio followed suit if they had a major movie that they truly wanted to get the big push to make the most money, to try and influence, the film industry, or what they wanted to have the impact. It was always then between the months of May to the end, I would say August, beginning of September, became that season, which he created.
That's right. And this is what I really do love about Spielberg, is that whether it's a giant shark terrorizing a small town, an island filled with genetically engineered dinosaurs, or aliens coming down onto a giant mountain, Spielberg always brings this sense of believability, like it's some sort of magic power that he has as an artist. He pulls you in to every single second of every single scene. Like if it's in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he pulls you into that temple in the first act of the film with Harrison Ford just as he grabs the idol. You feel as though you're right there with him. And whenever you look at something like E.T., he always makes you feel sympathy for the unknown, for the alien. It's not so much fearing or teaching us to be afraid. It's really saying, in the grander scheme of things, we may look different, but on a fundamental level, we're actually not. And there is...
That's what I really enjoy when it comes to Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
He always has a hidden message behind his movies, whether it's science fiction, whether it's action adventure, whether, whatever the movie may be. And then obviously he has that ability to go serious with the likes of Saving Private Ryan, which, is such a brutal and impactful film in itself.
Yeah. But I have to say, though, with him, he has a story, but he's always embellished in the characters that's in the story, because without them, I'm telling you, he makes the characters that he may not have a hand in, written or anything like that. He really fleshes them out, where it's like, as Daniel was saying, bringing that realism to the to the screen, because let's be honest. When you watch, like you say, when you mentioned Saving Private Ryan, when you get into Normandy, on the beach, D-Day, it's like, okay, we kind of get an idea of like, this is brutal, this is grueling, and then once you hear them doors open up, it's like, we're not gonna sit for 2 seconds. We're like in it. It's like we're really, like say, showing these characters embellished in something that's like, this is real stuff. It's like, this is something about Spielberg he's so good at doing, where I feel like a lot of other directors, they do well, Scorsese, various others, but it's Coppola, they do it, but it's like Spielberg got some kind of, I don't know, he's
Yes.
got this special touch.
It's
that
like
just,
magic that he's
The-
somehow been gifted with, and no one
Yes.
else knows how to harness it.
Yes, there's that scene I've said a number of times to you, Walter. You get people who are filmmakers, you get people who are storytellers.
right.
And I think there's a huge difference between somebody who's just a filmmaker who's making, say, a big blockbuster that's all full of the bells and whistles of explosions and, emotionless, empty characters with no real build or connection. It's all about the spectacle and the blasting and the look. And then you get a film of Steven Spielberg that not only is he having a film which could have an action sequence or a massive special effect, but what drives the movie isn't the spectacle, it's the characters, and it's the story that is flown through that 2.5 hour movie or an hour and a half movie. And then, of course, that's all the extra bits that's added on to tell that character story, like E.T., for example.
Or Schindler's List.
Schindler's List, yes. But J. Cole, your first introduction to Steven Spielberg, and when was the first time you got an inkling that he was a big deal?
Well, my first theatrical film that I ever watched of his was, believe it or not, Jurassic Park. That was my first theatrical introduction to him, but my first film ever that I watched of him, believe it or not, was E.T. Before that, and I didn't know who he was at the time and all of that, but then when I found out that he had produced all these other films, I'm like, really? Wow. He accomplished a lot. But yeah, I mean, Jurassic Park was my first theater experience of his films. And like a second viewing, I think I was sick at the time, and I won't go into detail, but y'all can probably guess. I ended up being sick at the theater. Still made it through the film, but it wasn't until I bought I think it was like the 20th anniversary on VHS of Jaws, when I, watched Jaws and all the special features. But when I was first introduced to Steven Spielberg, it was Jurassic Park in theaters, and ever since then, I've seen all the Indiana Jones films. I've seen Duel. I actually really enjoyed Duel. It was his first ever film, and I enjoyed that. Never seen Schindler's List. Never actually finished Third Encounter of the Third Kind. I know.
Did you ever see a Sugarland Express by chance?
No, I've never seen that.
Okay.
I watched that for the first time about 3 weeks ago.
I have seen most of his films, with the exception of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I've only watched half of that. Never seen Schindler's List. Never watched Saving Private Ryan.
AI.
Yeah, thank you. AI. I've never seen. So those 4 films I've never seen, and other than that, I've pretty much seen everything that he's been a part of or produced. I've pretty much have seen. So,
well, my first introduction to Steven Spielberg, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was, I think, for the first. I don't know if it was the first time it was screening, or if it was just a special event. It was on a Sunday afternoon. It was late. It was about 7 o'clock. And I was younger, my brother was younger, my mum had made her dinner, everything was fine. It was getting later. She was doing the ironing, had an ironing board out. She made for these little baskets of little treats, crisps and pop and sweets. And then it came on the screen, the Universal logo. Then it came the Amble logo, and it was E.T. And I remember seeing E.T. not really having an inkling of what the hell it was going to be about or what it was. But of course, all I can say is it really, really shocked me to see this cute little alien on the screen who basically, of course, goes through a journey. And that was my first taste of Steven Spielberg. And of course, since then, obviously, I knew, he'd done Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I had seen him do other movies, but I didn't really understand the true influence of who he was as a director. Because don't forget, I was just a young kid when I first seen E.T. It wasn't till I got older. There he is with E.T. It wasn't till I got slightly older, and I never forget the day. It was my first ever theatrical experience with Mr. Steven Spielberg. It was a boiling hot day. It was in the summer. We had the Tall Ship Festival here in Newcastle, England, which is like a rare event that happens so many years. The heat was ridiculous. My mum wanted to go shopping, and my dad said, I'm not taking the kids around the shops, the stores in this heat. That's when my mum said, well, why don't you take the kids to the theatres, to the cinema? And when we got to the front of the cinema, there was a queue a mile long. It was literally from the entranceway of this theatre all the way wrapped around it, and it came out the other side. And we were like, what the hell is this for? And then we went to the counter, and it was for Jurassic Park. That theatre had 10 screens, and Jurassic Park was being shown on 6 of the 10 screens. Any other film that summer in that theatre was either on the other 2 screens. Everything else was Jurassic Park. And I remember it was yesterday, the moment where Dr. Grant's sitting there, and obviously you see the beautiful scenes of the giant, the long neck, I can't remember the name of the thing, Brachiosaurus. That blew me mind. But the scene that truly defied that film for me and truly made me become a Steven Spielberg for life fan was the T-Rex attack when it broke out of the paddock. Now, for the first time in my life, I generally felt dinosaurs were real.
Yeah.
I felt every single emotion. I felt I was hooked to the screen, but at the same time, I was in complete awe of everything I was seeing, and I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I was also petrified.
Yeah.
And they were the true, like you say, the emotions, the power of his filmmaking, his characters that he built for that particular film. And then obviously later on, I became an even bigger fan when I seen other films. Like I had never seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Absolutely adored that movie. I only watched Duel about 2 or 3 years ago. And, Minority Report, I thought that was a very enjoyable film. And, of course, on top of him being an amazing storyteller and visual kind of on-screen art with those particular films, the sci-fi films, Close Encounters, E.T., he's also very good with the scariness with monsters, Jaws, Jurassic Park, but he's also a very good storyteller when it comes to just telling genuine human stories.
And don't forget the War of the Worlds from 2005 when he dealt in horror.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But he made that film as a result of the events of 9/11.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a huge influence of why he wanted to make his version of War of the Worlds. And I think he did a fairly good job. Obviously, I still think the original is the best of them all, but his version for me is better than the Ice Cube one.
That,
Yeah.
The
Oh my
garbage
Not
that is
on
Ice
Amazon
Cube.
promotion. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny
all
you
the-
mentioned about Jurassic Park when you got the feelings. I mean, when you first see that Brontosaurus, let me just say, I know because I took my mom, my nephew, and my older brother to go see it. Let me just say that when you see it, because I was skeptical of CG at this point. I was just like, CG is not going to replace anything. When you see it, and this is why I say Spielberg knows how to use a tool as well. When you see it for the first time, and I literally got emotional. Look, I was like, oh my God, this is very fluid. This is very, capturing. It's like, no way, it's like, and this is where you realize, like, Spielberg, yes, he's showing the spectacle, but the spectacle is not the story. The story is what you see that brings the story to life, And I feel like this is why, and then we see like I say, Grant and the others, just flabbergasted by what they're seeing. It's like, and that's exactly what the audience is feeling. They're feeling this overwhelming sense of, wow, you mean you brought this to life? You actually made this happen. So it's amazing how Spielberg has the ability to do these things. And I will say this: you mentioned about you were terrified when you see, especially during the the T-Rex scene and everything. There's something amazing that while this film came out that year, later that year, which I would go see Schindler's List, you really see how he honed in the devastation of what World War II was really like. I mean, it's true that, we see World War II as just a, kind of like fantasized or romantic kind of, emphasis on when we was growing up watching it back in the day, but Spielberg shows, no, this is how real life was during the time of the incarcerations of the Jews when the Nazis were doing what they're doing, and he didn't hold back. That's one thing I love about Spielberg. It's like, yeah, he could have easily, just like, I'm going to kind of romanticize it. I'm going to do this. No, he's like, no, I'm going to show you exactly what was going on during this time that was going on at this moment in human history. And it's like, that's something about him that, because I was always thinking to myself, it's like, okay, he's been kind of, doing the family thing, do whatever, but that shows right there that no, he always had a way of telling humanistic stories. And when he had to break it down and show that, because I heard about it, I'm thinking like, okay, Schindler's List, like maybe it's not going to be so bad. And then when I heard he got an R rating, it's like, well, how bad could it be? Well, when I went to go see
Schindler's List for me is his darkest film that he's done.
Yeah.
But even though it's his darkest film, the story, it's a story that needed to be told. And it's a story that I feel only he could bring to the screen.
Right. Because it was something that was brought to him like years later. I mean, years before, and he didn't feel like he could, not so much tell it. He just didn't feel like it was right time. And I guess because believe it or not, he had filmed that before Jurassic Park. Believe it or not, and he said like, well, let me go ahead and film this, and then it's like, okay, I'll kind of finish up with Schindler's List. That really told me that no, he really did want to express what this was about. And I feel like Schindler's List was more of an expression for him than anything else. And that's probably why it's so dark. Not because it's in black and white, because I love the fact it's in black and white.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes Schindler's List so great. The fact that it's told from the black and white perspective.
Yeah.
And then you have the girl in the red coat, and that's like a metaphor. And all of this stuff for that time, it's heartbreaking story, but it's a story that needed to be told. And I think he did a brilliant job bringing that to screen.
Right. And I feel like Well, trust me, like I say, it's you look, you'll fill up with emotions when you watch it because, like I say,
Yeah.
I didn't expect myself to go see it in the theater. I'm thinking like this movie's over 3 hours long. I'm not gonna watch no 3 hour long movie in the theater, but I feel that I was mature enough to go watch it. And I was only 23, and I was thinking, and I'm thinking at that time, when you're 23, it's like you don't want to watch a lot of long pictures or like that. But that shows how much I matured in terms of knowing that you want to see a good story. And when I saw Schindler's List, it's like, oh no, this is not exactly something that you
Mm.
just say, okay, put on the back burner and say watch later. It's like, no, watch it now and see how it affects you. And I feel like it affected me more than I thought it did.
Yeah. And this is the
Well,
sort of movie that is really a testament to Spielberg's power as a director, because if you go back to when Schindler's List first came out and you look at people's reaction, leaving the audiences, most of them were speechless, most of them were in tears. This is a movie that still, to this day, no matter how many times you rewatch it, it still hits hard.
oh, definitely.
Mm.
Like I've always said, Saving Private Ryan is one of the greatest war movies ever made, but I think Schindler's List is right up there. This is what I was trying to say before. When it comes to Steven Spielberg, he can do practically anything because it's not just about the stories; it's about the characters. If his characters are what drives his story. So whether it's a frightening monster type movie like Jaws or Jurassic Park, whether it's a science fiction spectacle like E.T. or War of the Worlds or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he then can tell real strong, real human emotion stories. And of course, you've mentioned Schindler's List, you've mentioned Saving Private Ryan, but another movie that I really, really like, I like The Terminal.
Okay.
Right.
Which I have not seen, I'm sorry to say. I have not seen
So
that.
The Terminal, he did that, and I'm sure he did Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah,
I saw
really nice
that one, yes.
So these two particular movies aren't like about science fiction monsters, war, the human stories about human characters, and The Fableman, which is based on his childhood. And of course, he also did his version of West Side Story, which I have recently seen. Like I say, I'm trying to catch up on Spielberg films that I didn't know I wanted to see or not, but I thought, I'm going to give some of these films that I kind of did a pass on a chance. And I can honestly say, obviously, the first one is a strong musical. This one, his version, is very much more realer and harder on the times that it's set in. You see more of, like, the hard times that they went through and the racism and all that stuff. So he puts like he did with Saving Private Ryan, like he did with Schindler, he puts a real world element and feel to it.
Then I'm going to have to bring this up then because, well, I mean, not because of my heritage, but the film that really was awakening to let me know that this man is not afraid to take a challenge, The Color Purple.
Yeah.
I have to say, when I saw that film, I was like, whoa, I was like, this is another example of showing me, it's like, it should not matter what demographic that you do or tell a story of. It's like, it's about story. And I got to say, when I saw that film, and I have to say, Spielberg was robbed from that film too. He didn't even get nominated for Best Director. But when I watched that film, it was just a telling of a time during, the time, like I say, in the South and dealing with the, African Americans, dealing with everything. And I was just like, what's a white? And this is my thinking. I was, like I say, I was like 16 when I actually did see the film. It's like, what's a white director directing a movie dealing with black people? It's like, I really thought that, but that's my arrogance, my ignorance, realizing like, dude, it's a story. It's a story of a person talking about, dealing with a woman who had to overcome oppression because she's female,
Yes.
also because she's black. And I'm just like, dummy, that's the whole point. You know, he's telling the story of a person who's really trying to overcome all these obstacles that were real during that time, and in a way, still kind of is now. You know, but anyway, that film was one of those films that made me, especially at the end, made me tear up so hard that I was like, wow, now I see, okay, this is not some man that just randomly doing, you know, a film that's just to give him some, you know, kudos and that. No, he's telling a story that's supposed to draw you in. And for the longest time, if you're not drawn in, then he didn't do his job right. He shows like it does not matter whether you're black, Asian, Hispanic, otherwise, it's all about telling the story and what the characters that you see are involved with. And I realized after that point, it's like, okay, don't ever think that again about this man. Of course, I was, like I say, I was in my teens when I thought this. Now that, you know, I'm way older, I realized like, okay, whatever he did back then, I respect him even more now for that.
Yeah. I'm going to just read a little bit more about Spielberg. So our beloved Mr. Steven Spielberg, Spielberg was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. He moved to California and studied film in college. After directing several episodes for television, including Night Gallery and Columbo, he directed the television film Duel in 1971, which was approved by Barry Diller. He made his theatrical debut with the Sugarland Express. He also beginning his decade-long collaboration with none other than John Williams.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
So, you know, he started his collaboration with John Williams, with whom he has worked with for all but 5 of his theatrical releases. He became a household name with the summer blockbuster Jaws and continuously directed more acclaimed box office blockbusters with Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, which came out in 1982, and the original Indiana Jones trilogy from 1981 to 1989. He also explored dramas in The Color Purple and Empire of the Sun.
Which were introduced to a young, very young Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Then this part is just blew my mind. In 1993, Spielberg directed back-to-back hits with the science fiction film Jurassic Park, the highest grossing film ever at the time, and the epic historical drama Schindler's List, which has often been listed as one of the greatest films ever made. He won the Academy Award for Best Director for the latter, as well as for the World War II epic Saving Private Ryan in 1998. Spielberg has since directed the science fiction films AI Artificial Intelligence in 2001, Minority Report in 2002, War of the Worlds in 2005, Ready Player One in 2018, and most recently, in 2026, he released his latest sci-fi epic, Disclosure Day.
Yep.
So, I have done my review. My good friend Mr. Walter Ross has done his review. But recently, our good friend in the panel with us today, Mr. Walter Ross, Daniel Miller, and his lovely mother, Deborah, have recently been to the theatres to see Disclosure Day. So since this is his latest offering, and we've already given our thought on the movie, and anybody that wishes to see my review, it's on the channel. If you want to check out Mr. Jedi Granville's review, go to Jedi Granville Productions. But Mr. Daniel Miller, let's hear your thoughts on the latest entry from Steven Spielberg.
Yes, please.
Okay, the latest from Steven Spielberg. Now this one, in honesty, I feel a bit perplexed on this one. It's great seeing that Spielberg, for a really fair majority of the movie, has not lost his touch when it comes to on-screen magic with his directorial techniques. Yeah, the way he directs Emily Blunt and Colin Firth, they give really good performances, and the approach that he takes to the aliens being on Earth subplot, and how the truth belongs to the people. It's a really good element to play with, and Spielberg has done this brilliantly to perfection with E.T. and Close Encounters. But with Disclosure Day, I feel that the glaring problem that I feel holds it back from reaching those the heights of those films is the script. Now I think it all feels like it's using action sequences like car chases as filler to essentially.
I felt like two people's movies.
Yeah,
I think like the first half of the movie feels like it's somebody else's movie, and then the second half it's classic Spielberg.
Yes.
Yeah, especially with the finale.
So you see, for me personally, every director has hits. Every director has movies that, you know, people go, well, it's not his best, but it's still not a bad movie. And I would say that with Disclosure Day. I don't think, even if a lot of people would consider Disclosure Day his weakest movie, it's still not a bad film. And it asks a lot of interesting questions. And the fact that you're perplexed tells me that it's making you think. And you're asking questions. So maybe that was the whole point. And if that's the case, that's a clever thing to do.
No, you got to remember, no, because that's exactly it. Because I know when I went into it, you know, I immediately could tell that there are going to be people questioning certain things, and there are going to be people who are going to like, oh my goodness, you're really doing this. Because I don't know if you've seen it yet, Jake, but I won't give too much about it. But
I've seen the film.
Oh, you've seen it? Okay. Well, the simple fact is, well, I won't say it here because I figure like whoever's watching haven't seen it, you know, but the basic line between, you know, Earth or extraterrestrial and something divine, it's like you can't let these two, you know, live in coordination with one another. It's like, it is so perplexing that this shows how humanistic humans are, because it's like you can't live with one and think that you can't live with the other one, you know. And it's like, and if they clash together, then it's like, oh no, this is, you know, it's like it's something so circling in their brain. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? It shouldn't be that hard to let this live in conjunction with one another. I mean, you can live in. It's almost like white and black. We can live in peace with one another, but it's like some people just can't do it, you know. It's like, why is that? So it's just something amazing about when you see that, and when you watch, it's like Spielberg really tangles that and makes it so interesting that it's like, yep, I saw that coming like 2 miles away. It was brought up, because once you hear the mention of religion, it's like, yep, here we go, we're going down this road. But at the same time, I realized, like, no, you shouldn't be so frightened by this. You shouldn't be so, you know, confused by it. You should just like learn to accept it, or learn to just realize like it's real. And I feel that's how Spielberg does. He's taking something that's very verisimilitude kind of mode and just like makes you feel and makes you think about it.
See, for me, this was a story written by Steven Spielberg. He was the director, but the screenplay was done by David Koch, I believe.
Yes.
So he did the screenplay.
Jurassic Park.
Yes.
So he has got history with Spielberg. So it's his weakest screenplay in many ways. And a lot of people complain about a number of his characters. So people complain, for example, about Colin Firth's character and Coleman Domingo's character, but I actually really enjoyed them, and I love the dueling personalities. So the whole thing about Disclosure Day is somebody's got this information that they're going to reveal to the world, and this is a what-if scenario. What if this information was released to the world? How would the public react? So you've got Colin Firth's character, who's basically saying, if you release this information and you make it public, the world will turn to chaos.
Right.
Religion will collapse, society could fall apart. Then you've got Colin Domingo's character on the other side. He's saying this could give people hope, and it could bring people together, and it could bring nations who are fighting and wars. It could end it all and bring humanity closer together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a compelling argument. And then the very last moment of this movie, I had goosebumps. And the goosebumps didn't come from the scenes that transpire, which I won't spoil for people that are watching who haven't seen it. But there's a particular moment with the news anchor at the end.
Mm-hmm.
She, for me, stole the movie.
Yes, very.
And it's interesting how all of these arguments, like, oh, this will give people hope, or oh no, it'll plunge everyone into chaos. Now, I'm not going to say what the background it's set against is for those who haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil it, but it's a very interesting way to put that with, I'll just say, a very real world scenario that we're watching in real time, and it's been going on since the explosion of the atom bomb, really.
Definitely. And of course, they do mention in Disclosure Day that there is tension between the US and Russia, which is like an event that is, always seems to be a pattern that happens in these type of movies.
And isn't it kind of funny that I don't know why, even though we see what we see in front of it, that little side note is kind of like in the abyss, is like almost part of the story, but it's like second nature or even third nature, because like, okay, so people are at war, these two superpowers are like, why? Maybe that's just Spielberg's way of saying like, this is man's ignorance, this is man's fear, this is man's just being man, basically.
So, Jake, obviously, we didn't hear. What was your opinion of Disclosure Day without spoilers?
Well, I've only seen the first trailer of it, and I kind of went into this blind, pretty much, because I was skeptical of seeing it. I was like, do I go see it? Do I want to see it? I ended up going seeing it along with another film later on that evening, but when I first watched it and I started paying attention to it, I was just like, wow. I mean, I was hooked. And I was just like, and for my showing that I went to, there was a pretty decent crowd, which I was pleasantly surprised that there was. I mean, and
good
throughout
for theaters.
Yeah, which I was pleasantly surprised from the theater that I went to. I wasn't expecting that many people, but all in all, I mean, throughout the film and the storytelling, especially between Emily Blunt's character and the other guy that's with the girl, I thought it was a good storytelling and all of that, and the ending, I'm not gonna lie, it actually got me little emotional in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Me and
shit.
Walter said the same way. He got emotional.
Yeah, and I actually did shed a tear. I'm not gonna lie, because it did make me emotional, and I thought the way they ended it was like interesting way to end end it. So, but yeah, I really did enjoy it. I was pleasantly surprised.
I personally think yes, the closer they will divide fans, and I do think it'll have mixed reactions. There'll be some that hated it. There'll be some that think it's Spielberg through and through. I've got a mixed bag. I feel like the first half of the movie, part of it is Spielberg, but it's the second half of this movie he comes into his own, and you see the Spielberg classic, storytelling and cinematography. And I even said in my review, like, there's a scene in the bedroom where you see the wind chime and just the music with the John Williams score, and it just was fantastic. But I think years down the line, despite it not being what people might consider his best science fiction film, I do think it's going to grow a stronger audience in time.
Well,
And
this is what I'm sorry.
I was just going to say there may be a lot of people that wait till it's on streaming as well, because they're divided. And when they hear reviews or they hear other people talk about, they might be divided to see it in theatre, so they wait for streaming. I personally am going to get it on 4K because I still thought it was a decent film. Not his best, but not terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I was meaning earlier before, about he's not someone who's afraid to do anything, because, like I say, many of his films have been mostly hits, but there have been not so much misses. It's just that they're not as popular as the other ones, And I'm pretty sure, like I say, this one right here will grow, but he's not afraid to take the chance. That's the thing about great thing about a good director, storyteller, is that you have to take a chance in order to get your story told, And like I say, if anyone finds some kind of whatever now, that's the now. Who knows what maybe be in the 5-10 years from now, how they feel about it then, So it's like, that's how it is.
So Spielberg co-founded Amblin Entertainment and DreamWorks Pictures, and he has served as a producer for many successful films and television series. Among them, and I didn't know this, mind, till I started looking. I didn't realize he produced Poltergeist in the beginning. And then I know that I'm sure I didn't Poltergeist. It started off as a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Not really sure, because Poltergeist is dealing with spirits other than something extraterrestrial.
It started off as something with Spielberg, and then it became Poltergeist.
Oh, okay.
That was in 1982. Then he did Gremlins. Then he did Back to the Future. American Tail, which I absolutely love American Tail, and I feel like that feels for me like Steven Spielberg's first animated feature. It feels that way because it feels like it's Steven Spielberg's storytelling, the story of American Tail. Of course, he did Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He did the Animaniacs. He did Pinky and the Brain. Now, this one I didn't even know he was connected with Twister.
Yeah.
He
acted both.
Yeah. Band of Brothers, which is an amazing historical television show. And of course, from 2007 to present, he's been the executive producer of the Transformers series.
I'm wondering, do you know that he executive produced a very popular television show, believe it or not, ER?
Yes, he did ER. And there was a science fiction television show that I'm sure he was involved in with aliens, very similar to the aliens that you see in the majority of his films. I don't was it called before the before the what you call it, the Liam Neeson films. I'm sure was it not called Taken?
Yes,
Yes.
Taken. That's where his daughter got kidnapped, and
Hmm.
pretty much.
Yeah, yes, but I'm sure that he created a television show that was called Taken. I think it was him. I think it was.
No, that was him.
Yeah.
She was part of that.
So, yeah.
He's like I say, he's had a mix. Look, that's one thing. See, I didn't know about ER until like I say, sometime later. In the like
Yeah,
third season.
2002, he did Taken, a television show based on an alien abduction. Now, if you haven't seen that show, it's brilliant.
And I'm assuming that you all know that he was part of the Twilight Zone, the movie film. Also,
Yes, he was.
Yep.
Yes, he was. I remember that very well.
he was not
But,
part of that fiasco that happened with who the other director, but that's another thing to be talked about.
yeah. Several of Spielberg's works are considered among the greatest films in history, and some are among the highest grossing ever. 7 of his films have been inducted into the National Film Register by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or authentically significant. In 2013, Time magazine listed him as one of the 100 most influential people, and in 2023, Spielberg was the recipient of the first ever Time 100 Impact Award in the US. So, just amazing career. And of course, as promised, I did ask each of my guests to give me their top 5 Steven Spielberg films. So, we'll start off with Mr. Jake Hall. So, from 5 to 1, give me your top 5 Steven Spielberg and your reasons why these films particularly have meaning and have made your list.
Okay, so at number 5 is going to be Duel, because it was his very first film that he directed, and I love the aspect that it was a combination of a gentleman that is just trying to do his work or trying to get to work, and then you have this raging truck driver that's trying to kill him. And I love the fact that when he defeats the guy and he goes over the cliff, you hear that iconic, which will go into another pick here in just a few moments. But my number 4 is going to be E.T. because that one, when I was younger, I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I really did, because I always thought it was funny. I can't remember if it was like Reese's Pieces that he was eating or Skittles. I don't remember which candy it was, but it's like candy, and it's like E.T. phone home. But yeah, that one was good. All right, so now we're in my top 3, and number 3. This is probably going to be shocking, but number 3 is going to be Jaws, because I really enjoyed the film. I didn't watch that until I think my parents recorded it on TV one day, and I watched it, so it has significant meaning. And for a shark that didn't hardly work most of the time, it still had its purpose, and all that.
Mhm.
My number 2 is going to be Disclosure Day.
Nice.
Okay.
I actually really enjoyed that. I thought it was a good Steven Spielberg film. It pleasantly surprised me. I enjoyed the storytelling. I enjoyed the connection with the characters, how he built up the characters, especially Emily Blunt's character. I thought she did an amazing job. And it was funny that Wyatt Russell from Monarch Legacy of Monsters was in that film.
Mm.
And my number 1 is Jurassic Park because of the fact that not only did you think the dinosaurs were real, but you had the combination of both the CGI and the animatronic uh, dinosaurs as well, especially with the T Rex being in the rainwater and still functioning under that.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just so. That is my top 5.
That was twice he had a mechanical prop that nearly didn't work.
Yes.
Because Bruce the Shark and Rexy the Rex nearly basically just were like, fuck this, I'm going to just break down.
History.
I'm not getting paid enough.
And one added note in Jurassic Park 3, when they were doing the animatronic Spinosaurus and the T Rex, the Spinosaurus actually ripped off the T Rex head.
Yeah.
Oh.
During yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching the making of Jurassic Park 3, and they literally said that during the making, the Spinosaurus literally ripped off the head. So,
Okay.
Mhm. Right. Now, Mr. Daniel Miller.
Right. Now I don't have any of these numbered in any particular order, but I'm saving number 1 for last, and before that, I'm going to have an honorable mention.
Okay.
So, in my top 5, again in no particular order, I'm going to begin with what I like to think of as, in terms of a human-centered story, this is what I think one of his best ones, Sugarland Express.
Okay.
And the reason why I think it's the best one is that when I look at his human-centered stories, like, they are just real people. They're no
Mhm.
heroes or villains. No one's got this mega maniacal scheme to conquer the universe or kill an entire civilization. They're just ordinary people, and the story that they're in, it's grounded in a reality that we see as mundane. Yet Spielberg approaches that reality from such an angle that it makes you not only invested, but actually puts you in the shoes of these characters. I mean, uh, the the uh, the 2 characters in this who take a policeman hostage, they're not inherently bad guys. They're not evil. They're just ordinary people who have just taken the wrong step in life and just want to get back on the right track.
Yeah.
Because this
Correct.
character here, played by Goldie Hawn, she just wants to see her child again. That's
Yes.
really all she wants, and her lover or husband, if I remember correctly,
He's a dick
yeah,
from
he's
Ghostbusters. I'm talking about.
he's a douchebag, but
Yes.
he does have a redemption toward
Yeah.
the end, and it hits emotionally hard when he meets his demise at the end of that film, and when the policeman that they took hostage, when he gets the cuffs taken off him at the end, he said he wasn't gonna shoot.
Mm.
And that actually says a lot from when he's introduced right up until that last line of dialogue. Jesus, that's just powerful, in my opinion. That really is.
That's why I wish that most people would see that film, because it's a lot better than some people might think it is. It's really powerful. Yes.
Yeah, and the next one, again, this is in no particular order except for number one. Next on the list, Duel. Absolutely. Now, this one I like because it's psychological horror, but taken in the context of of inanimate objects. In this case, a vehicle. This, when I look at it now, I think of it as Jaws before Jaws. It's the Jaws of the highway, I think, and the way that that Spielberg frames uh, each shot for cinematography wise, it always keeps a veil of mystery. We never really get any details about the driver of the truck. All we just see is his hand on the wheel or his hand coming out the window when he's signaling the main character to go by. And this is something that I briefly want to touch upon. If you look at E.T., you look at how cinematically it's framed. When we see the guy who's following E.T., his first introduction, it's a a semi close up shot, but we don't actually see his face. All we see
Yes.
is on his shoulder downwards.
Yes,
And again,
it's like that.
That's a question. Do you think Duel could have influenced the story in Maximum Overdrive? You know, with the trucks?
I think it is possible. It could have definitely, especially since we don't actually see the driver for that much.
And I do know that the truck that's used in Duel became iconic and has been used a number of times in other pictures.
Yes. Yep. And that groaning sound the truck makes when it goes over the cliff, not only was that reused in Jaws, albeit it was modified, but that originally came from a 1954 Universal picture called Creature from the Black Lagoon. That was the Gilman's Roar, the original master tape that was edited and altered quite drastically for Duel, which was altered again for the finale of Jaws. The more you know. Right, next in my list. Now, this one, I like to think of it again as a human-centered story, as what I said about Sugarland Express, but it puts an extraterrestrial spin on that. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
Now, this one, I think it actually, in a bizarre choice of words, it makes aliens a lot more human than we would assume them to be. Like they're not out for galactic domination. They're not just abducting people for experimenting on them. They are a race that's just as curious as we are, I think.
Yes.
And the whole symbolisms, like with the mountain that we see in the final act of the movie, and after Richard Dreyfuss's character sees the UFO, and since then he's having visions of this mountain. Like first he makes it out of mashed potato during dinner, then he starts building the mountain in this train model he has in his living room. It's so perfectly planned out story-wise, and the execution is again perfect all around. Now this one again, I like it from its characters because no one is evil. There's no inherent villains in the story. Again, they're ordinary people. And Spielberg,
I felt the same with their Disclosure Day as well. That there's no real villain. I felt in Disclosure Day.
I would.
You just had you just like Colin Firth's character. He might come across as a villain, but in his mind, he's doing it to stop the truth from getting out because he's worried about the reaction that the public will have.
That's right. Now, as I was, now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, Close Encounters. Now, as far as Spielberg movies goes, this is one of the top three, along with Jaws and Jurassic Park. And well, I say top three because numbers always tend to change. from time to time. So yeah, that's definitely in there in one of his top best ones. Now the next one. Now I only have the Blu-rays here because I don't have the single DVD anymore.
Okay.
It is 1993's Jurassic Park. Now, how Spielberg approached this using CGI and animatronics with Industrial Light and Magic, the Stan Winston School of Special Effects, Stan Winston Studios, I mean, and John Williams with his orchestral palette. It is an instant classic. It's a tearjerker from the moment you see the Brachiosaurus come on screen with John Williams' Jurassic Park theme swelling up, just as John Hammond says, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." Every single set piece from the dinosaurs, like the T-Rex breaking out of the cage, the raptors stalking Ellie Sattler and Muldoon, the Brachiosaurus interacting with Alan and the kids in the trees, and even the human characters like Nedry. Okay, he immediately stands out and is the first character that comes to mind when I think of Jurassic Park. I always think of Dennis Nedry first and foremost when it comes to Jurassic Park. Don't get cheap on me, Dodson.
Yeah.
That was Hammond's mistake. And again, character-wise, the first Jurassic Park, I love
that when Daddy goes, "Look, we've got a Dodson here. We've got a Dodson here. Look,
Yeah.
nobody cares."
Yeah. You think that kind of automation is easy or cheap? You know, anyone else that can debug over 2 million lines of code?
What always stands out for me as well with Samuel L. Jackson when he's talking and he's got the tab in his mouth and it doesn't even fall. He's like talking with a cigarette in his mouth. He's like,
Yeah.
Please, God damn it! I hate this hacker crap.
Yeah.
You didn't say the magic word. You didn't say the magic word.
Yeah.
It's the only film I know that Samuel L. Jackson didn't say motherfucker.
Right.
Yes. Yes. That and Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of that. And you know, it's always funny. He's like, when he interacts with the Dilophosaurus, he's like, "Here, you want the stick? Here's a stick. Here's a stick, stupid. Fetch the stick. Fetch the stick." No wonder you're extinct. And then all of a sudden, it's like, the frill comes up, and then he gets, pretty much gets entombed. And then gets hit in the eyes. It's like, and then gets knocked down, loses the canister, and then he thinks he's safe in the car. And then all of a sudden you hear, which I always wondered, how the hell did that Dilophosaurus get in that damn car?
Because he left the door open on the other side.
On the other side, he did?
So what happens is you see him, and the door's open on the other side, and then he falls down the thing. So when he climbs up, it must have climbed into the car and went into the back, and then when he come in and shut the door, it was already in the car.
Huh.
That would make logical sense.
I guess so. So he must have had both.
He got out of the car, and it was there. He turned to get in the car, he banged his head, and he fell down the waterfall. That was standing on the hilltop where it venomed him. So as soon as he fell down the waterfall, it would have went into the car.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he got back up and shut the door, bang, there he was. It was there in the car. And it was basically sitting in the driver's seat, like on the passenger side.
Yeah. Oh, poor Nedry. He did make some mistakes, but he didn't have to go out that way, man. No, come on.
Karma's a bitch. You don't know that.
Yeah. Well, by the way, the system is going to be compiling over the next 15 to 20 minutes. So if a few systems go off, it's just a system thing. Don't worry about it. It's just a little system thing. It will sort itself out.
Yeah, and everything else just completely just goes down.
Fine, Nedry. check the vending machines.
Jeez.
Yeah, Jurassic Park. Now, very quickly, I want to say this about the sequels. Lost World, it's very good. It's not quite on the same level as the first Jurassic Park, obviously not, but it's a sequel that matters. I think Jurassic Park 3, clearly it was a rush job. It did have some really good moments, but clearly a rush job.
It was a
Then
cash grab.
Yeah.
Then there's Jurassic World. You're screwed up. First and foremost, with the human characters, again, when it comes to characters in Spielberg movies, what I like about them is that there's no outright villains. Why the hell are there villains in this movie now? And no, stop.
How can a woman,
No.
how can a woman outrun a Tyrannosaurus Rex in their meals?
Yeah. You would think that those skills would have broken, or she would at least twisted her ankle. Come on. And then you have this whole subplot with, oh yeah, we're going to take these animals off this island and we're going to hire mercenaries to shoot anyone who gets in the way. Like, seriously? Again? No, stop. Just stop. No, that's it. No more Rebirth. No more bloody candy bars causing an entire park system to fail. No more animated spin-offs. No. Enough.
Well,
shut down by a candy bar, damn it.
Damn, boy.
And don't forget, if you look at the timestamp when the event happened, it happened before all the other films.
Oh. Retconning. No.
Yep.
I won't allow it.
Yes, it was retconning at its finest.
Oh, man. The Snickers will never live it down.
And what is your number one, Mr. Miller?
Before we get to number one, honorable mention, but from television. Directed by Steven Spielberg, an episode of Columbo, Murder by the Book.
Okay.
Now, for those who don't know the plot of the episode, well, I say episodes because Columbo, they feel like made-for-TV movies. They're all standalone. So yeah, the plot of Murder by the Book. Two authors who co-created a crime series of novels. One of them kills the partner and makes this elaborate setup, which was actually based on an idea that he wrote himself, only to realize that the partner he killed stole the idea and used it for himself in his own notes. Now, Spielberg's direction here, how he directs Peter Falk and the other characters and the other actors in this movie, it is brilliant. Especially how he directs the way that the photographer frames each shot. Like with the finale, we have Peter Falk standing over the actor who plays the criminal. I forget his name. He discovers the note that says, A wants to kill B. A takes B to a secluded place. A kills B, but stages B's death to be something else. And that's when the moment he realizes that he's been caught, and he's like, you know something, Columbo? That was actually my idea. A damn good one I ever had. Never would have thought that idiot would write it down. Everything there from Spielberg's direction across the actors and the photography, brilliant. Even on the small screen, Spielberg has so much power.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Right. And with all those out of the way, at number one, just to say, the others I've gone through, they're no specific order, but only one stays in number one because the first movie I remember watching from beginning to finish and the one that influenced me the most, Jaws.
Dum,
There
dum.
we go.
Nice.
Now, as I
Yeah,
say,
we go.
yeah, as I've said before, watching it the first time at that young age, scared, terrified of swimming, even in a public pool for a hell of a long time, but also fascinated from the visuals to the characters to even learning about directorial style. Everything about this movie, even over 50 years now, it has not lost a single ounce of its charm. I mean,
Yeah.
everything from the characters like uh, Brody's wife, Hooper, Quint, Mayor Vaughan, and even all of the other locals on Amity Island, they immediately help the audience be grounded in this fictional uh, island community. And again, every time you see the shark, it's it's perfectly shown. It's not like how in Jurassic Park every dinosaur was a set piece. No, the shark, it was, despite all of the problems it had, how it was constantly breaking down, how the ocean environment was just brutal on the electronics, it was never overshown. I feel it was always shown the appropriate amount of screen time, and the use of the barrels to signify it was there was an ingenious use of initiative by Spielberg, because the prop would always just be malfunctioning. That
Yeah.
and John Williams' score, it perfectly elevates and underpins this movie tenfold. Like, if you were
Yes.
to take out John Williams' music, it just wouldn't work. It would be like if you took Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, but you took out all of Bernard Herrmann's music, it wouldn't work. If you took out all of the music from, say, Alien, I don't think it would work.
Yes.
And that's the thing, though, because with Jaws, everything that's minimalistic, whether it be the shark's appearance or even the soundtrack itself, that minimalism works because
Yes.
Spielberg, as much as he knows how to do spectacle, as he knows how to do grand reveals, how he knows how to do action, violence, and all this, he also knows how to do not only suspense but also restraint.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you just look at the scene where Quint, Hooper, and Brody are drunk in the Orca singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home," after the, even including the Indianapolis speech, and when they're showing each other their scars, the only bit of music we hear in there is that eerie string composition by Williams when Quint recounts the Indianapolis story. Other than that, there's no other soundtrack. That minimalism is perfect. The minimalism, even in the Foley or sound design, it's just the rocking of the boat in that scene. Brilliant. And Spielberg has said, as much as he had trouble, as much as his troubles making Jaws discouraged him from making the sequels, he still looks back on it fondly. And that is such a brilliant thing to do.
Yeah, I think it was a movie that caused him a lot of stress, but in the end, he's appreciative of the impact that it's made.
Yeah,
and that it's still, all of the hard work and the stress, it all paid off, because then obviously it basically helped build his career. More opportunities came his way thanks to the success of Jaws.
Yeah. And there's also, I think there are 2 posters of Jaws out there. They're newspaper print posters. They have the picture of the shark here, but going into the shark's mouth, they have the box office receipts from films like Gone with the Wind and The Sting, all disappearing into the shark's mouth because Jaws topped all of those box office numbers combined.
Nice. Mr. Jedi Granville, it's your turn, my brother.
Oh, God, I don't know if I want to do this because Look, let's be honest. Spielberg has got a map. It's got a
Buku.
Rolodex of good films, and it was kind of hard to decipher which ones were really something that I feel could even register as top five. But thankfully, I really harnessed my thought process and said, "Yes, I can do this. I can do this." So, starting with number five, and it's going to be a surprise, maybe for some, maybe for none. Okay, as I told you before, Spielberg has had misses. He has. That's a given. But this miss, for some reason, is one that stands out the most, and for some reason, I just love it for what it is. I mean, it's not something that most people talk about or even put in the hemisphere of one of his finest or even best, or even a film that he directed this. But the film I'm referring to is the 1979 Jim Belushi. Is it Jim Belushi? Wait a minute. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd film, 1941.
Oh,
This film, I guarantee you, this film is a lot more complex, but it's so grand in the scale that you would not believe the amount of what goes on in this film. Okay. And you would have to see the extended cut, because if you see the theatrical cut, it's like you can tell it's some kind of bits and pieces. But when you see the extended cut, everything falls into place more beautifully. And I feel like he's taken a script from Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, the guys who gave us Back to the Future, and John Milius. Their script, it's basically a comedy talking about the days after Pearl Harbor was attacked, where the Japanese pretty much try to attack California or somewhere in Hollywood. But anyway, it's a mixed bag of just incredible comedy timing in this film. It's like you wouldn't even, because when I first saw it, I never, like I say, this is kind of like I say, I didn't realize this was Spielberg's touch. I would never think that, because when I'm watching, it's like, this is kind of interesting how certain things are, going like it's like a piece of jigsaw puzzle. It's like these pieces are going into very well, and I'm kind of like, why is that? And then I'm just like, I don't get how this is working out like this. But then when I see that his name when the movie ends, and it's right after the if you haven't seen the film, trust me when I say, you're just gonna be like, wow. And this was all done practically.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen 1941, but I've heard mixed. Like you see, I've heard mixed opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and it's no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying I've heard mixed opinions of it, but I haven't actually seen it myself.
Well, I'll say this: it's up to the viewer if we choose to watch it. I mean, but I would say if you do watch it, watch the extended cut, because I feel like it brings more to the table. But when you watch it, like I say, everything in this film, this is pre digital. This is way before everything, because there's a scene where a house literally falls off a cliffing and it's destroyed. It's like, and then when you see when the credits come up, this is a time where I thought credits were only done at the beginning of the film. This is the first time where you see credits being projected at the end. And when I see Spielberg's name come up, it's like, whoa, Steven Spielberg? It's like, he directed this? It's like, and then it kind of clicks, like, okay, that kind of makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. But the end result is this, this is satire, but it's very well made satire. But I feel like, as I say again, it's up to the individual when they're watching this. It's like, is this okay? It's like, to me, this is one of Spielberg's, probably not the best of his films, but for me, it's personally a very well made film, because he's taken a script that seemed like it shouldn't even work, and actually gave it his Spielberg touch to it. He put that pistol dust on, and gave it life. So and trust me, if you was to see the behind the scenes of this film and all the antics that went behind the scene, it's like it's crazy, But anyway, that's my number 5. My number 4 is actually one we had mentioned, but I don't think it's meant. It's I'm not saying it's bad because it's actually a good film. It's Minority Report, which I
Yes.
feel like is one of a best example of a Philip Dick adaptation brought to screen. Is one of his best. I mean, like true enough, we've had Total Recall, we've had Blade Runner, various other Philip Dick short films. Short stories brought to life, but Minority Report is a very good example of how you take the story of predicting the future and showing what happens when you are the one who's on the run, And I have to say, everything that comes before it is like it really gels, but after even really gels even more. And you see moments where like the female cognitive, she is saying like, take this umbrella, take it, and she tells him like, hold right here for a second. There's a moment where some balloons come into play and the people who are chasing them don't see them. It's like, I'm like, this is brilliant Spielberg direction. This is great storytelling. I mean, I'm loving this, and it's just a great mixed bag of how, and that's the thing about this film too. You don't know where it's going. You feel like, okay, this is going this way, but it's going like totally the other way. It's going south quick. It's not going north. And when you find out who really is behind all this, you're like, okay, I did not see that. I mean, I really didn't see that coming. But when you watch it, and whoever's watching this, when you see it, it's like you might say, "Oh, I kind of saw that coming a while away." But then again, for me, it was very good storytelling and showing that you didn't see that happening. You didn't see that happening. But to number 3 is probably an obvious one because it's like this is going back to my childhood because I saw this film in its original run back in '81. My brother took me and my brother who I take care of and my nephew. We went to go see Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark is definitely number 3 because let's be honest, this is a brilliant way of taking something that George Lucas gave Spielberg. And it was something that was supposed to be a kind of homage or a kind of more of a, because from what I was told, what I read, it's supposed to be something more dramatic than James Bond. But it's a adaptation or more of a homage to the old series of old.
I heard a story that Steven Spielberg always wanted to direct a James Bond film, and for whatever reason, they wouldn't allow him to do it. So then when George Lucas and all that were coming up with ideas for movies and they were friends, this is where the idea of Indiana Jones came up. And obviously they just changed the setting and altered the character, but basically Indiana Jones became the end result of when he wasn't allowed to do a James Bond film. And I think, you stupid pricks. Because if you had allowed him to do a James Bond film, I think he generally would have done an amazing job. But now, I don't think he's even interested because he created a character all of his own and built a legacy around the Indiana Jones character.
Way to drop the ball, guys! But hey, that's here to say. I mean, that's why I say you don't think ahead of time, thinking like you can't see the gift that this person has, and yeah, I mean, he really wanted to do that, but hey, he took something that is like kind of not so much, it's fresh, but his own spin on it. And let me just say, to this day, 45 years later, the end of the film where the Ark of the Covenant is open, I'm gonna just say right now, it terrified me then when I was 11 years old. It still does it to now as I'm about to turn 56. I mean, the power of and then look, the moment when you see this ghostly female look, I mean, kind of look at the Nazi soldiers standing on the pole, you know, it's looking at us. But when it changes to a skull, it's like, oh, shit's about to get real right now. And it's like, then when all of a sudden, all the Nazis getting vaporized, and I was like, oh no. I was like, look, again, this is where you could say this is a little indication that Spielberg does not play around when he's showing the gratuity of someone getting pretty much done away with. And to this day, like I say, Raiders of the Lost Ark will never leave my mind as like one of his best films to date. But going on to number 2. It could have been a toss-up between the two, but the number 1 is going to not be surprising. But number 2 is Jaws, of course. Jaws has to be for sure. Jaws, and I told you before, this is my first this was my first Spielberg film, but my first film that I saw that was recent in the theater, but I saw it on television. And when I did get to see it in its original widescreen color format, I can see why it was, when I saw it originally on black and white on my aunt's television, it's like, it's a good thing I didn't see it in color, because I didn't realize how graphic it really was. I mean, you gotta realize, you know, I mean, and it's in essence, it's not really about the shark, which it is, but it's the people surrounding the shark that brings it to life. And you realize that if you really look at the film, it's actually 2 films in one, surprisingly.
Yes.
The beginning is, you know, the people at
Amity.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm trying to say the name. They're being terrorized because some greedy, you know, idiot, you know, says like, we got to have summer dollars in order to make our town flourish. And I know in the original book, the mayor has some mafia ties with somebody, and this is one of the reasons. And it was something to do with that, but they took that storyline out and just said that he's just being a greedy bastard. But that beginning was just that for the beginning of the film. But when we get into where, you know, Quint and the sheriff, I mean, what's his fucking name? Brody and Hooper. I've seen this movie about 1 billion times. I can't remember his name. No, they go out to sea to try to hunt Bruce, which is, believe it or not, the name of my brother. I'm not going to hunt him down. I'm not going to do that. Anyway, no, getting back to the point is that they're hunting him. They're hunting the shark, but in between them hunting him and doing it, you get to really get to know these characters a little bit more. And that moment where Quint talks about the USS Indianapolis, you know, that was a moment, and this is, most people don't know. Well, I'm not gonna say most people, but some people don't know this, that was an actual event that actually got declassified just before filming. And when he tells the story of what happens, you know, it's like so eerie. And then John Williams' music in this moment really amps up and gives that more very like.
Is that when he tells the story about the ship and the?
Yes.
Did you know that was? Did you know that was all ad-libbed?
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't it. That wasn't in the script.
No, that's exactly, it wasn't.
He literally just said it on the spot, and Spielberg kept it in the movie because it was just so powerful.
That was a brilliant move on his part, and that's why I feel that. And I should say this: Spielberg was not nominated for Best Director for this film, unfortunately. I mean, the film got nominated for Best Picture, but he didn't get a nod for Director. But whatever. Anyway, but that shows how brilliant he was doing in telling the story, because he's letting someone just do that, Robert Shaw, speak these lines and talk about it, and the way he is like, you're pulled in by this, and you don't really know where it's going, but you realize like the end result is, well, Quint would eventually face his end, unfortunately. And as much as the shark is, mechanical and had trouble, I feel like when we see it at the end, it's more, robust in terms of it's giving us what we need. It's like, this is a shark, this is the danger, and we need to kill it. So, but the end result is the film is just about how people react around a certain threat. And the thing about this film is not some grand, big, whirly event like that. It's just that this is a big shark. It's a real thing. And Spielberg took something that was based on a book and made it something that's more, as Daniel would say, more realistic, more lived in. And you love the characters in this film, I mean, like when they mentioned something about, in the Amity, you say yad. And now Brody said, what the kids I say, yeah, that they're in the yard, not too far from the car. And I was like, and then she says like how he asked how was that? It's like you're from New York, So it's like it's brilliant storytelling with brilliant characters, and I feel like this film is one of the reasons probably why it's in the top, 5 of mine, and just in general film in general. So, but number one should not be a surprise, although it makes it be a surprise. I don't know. That would be Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Nice.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. For the life of me, I'm gonna just say this right now. I'm sorry that I didn't get to see it when it was originally came out in '77. I did get to see it for its 40th anniversary later, and I can say now that it's a film that doesn't, because it's Spielberg's own thing. It's his own, because he wrote it from his own words, and it's brilliant. It's just brilliant because everything clicks. Whether it be the acting from Richard Dreyfuss, or from Terry Garr, or even the woman Lorraine. I forget what her name is, the last name, but all these things come in brilliantly, and it's just amazing because see, all the things that you see in this film became iconic in itself. The dun 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 dun. I mean, John Williams' music in this film is just I mean, I don't. Whenever I do a top 10, score for John Williams, I mean, I know this is going to be one of the top ones, but the film is just basically one of those films like you just can't take it. You cannot watch this and not get bored. If you get bored, then that shows right there you have no imagination. And I feel like this film, for me, like so many other things back in the late '70s, unlocked that imaginative side of me, because I could come up with some kind of story or some kind of basis of something right off the top. And I gotta say, with Spielberg, he was this individual who was not afraid to imagine or dream. And somehow for me, it unlocked in me what I wanted to tell, because like I say, nowadays we have these things called AI where we can kind of, and then if you have the basis of, being able to draw, I think that's even better. But AI has happened to help me unlock certain things that I have in my brain that I wanted to put down, but didn't have the so-called notion of how to do it, But the great thing about this is that movie is just a spectacle of great storytelling. And I'm just glad that, me personally, even almost 50 years later, this film holds up very well. And because it was, like I say, it was a very hard toss of like, which film can I say is number one? Because that's like me trying to pick but we kind of did it, top Godzilla film. We kind of did it in a way in the past. But Close Encounters is definitely number one, and this I think as uh, Jacob Daniel said, it kind of changes up a little bit. I think it'll still be number one for me for now because it's just that well made, and probably because it is Spielberg's own.
It's the story itself for me that makes it such a special film.
Yes.
And in its time that it was made. But there are two other individuals that have also given me their top 5 Steven Spielberg movies. The first is a gentleman who was meant to be joining us today, but unfortunately could not make it, and that is Anthony Jordan. So his top 5 is from 5 to 1. At number 5, he chose E.T.
Okay.
At number 4, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay.
Number 3, Duel. Number 2, Jurassic Park. And of course, at number 1, Jaws.
Yeah.
Don't make surprise.
So they were Anthony Jordan, a friend and a regular member here on the entertainment headquarters. But there is another individual that wanted to, give his 2 cents on Steven Spielberg and to give his, top 5. So he sent me a video. So here we are. Say hello to Mr. DJ Anubis of the Metal Tavern Radio.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? DJ Anubis here with you on the Metal Tavern Radio podcast, giving you my top 5 Steven Spielberg films of all time, according to myself. Fortunately, I can't join Kevin Lambert and guests on his channel to discuss this today, but wanted to at least give you my input and give you my top 5 because it is a very good discussion to have. Spielberg, one of the best directors of all time, created some of the best movies of all time, and really kind of narrowing it down to 5 wasn't necessarily hard, but at the same time, if I were to do a top 10, it might be a little more difficult because, again, he's got so much stuff in there and stuff that I haven't seen either. And some stuff I would even say not really that interested in. So even the newest one, Disclosure Day, which has all this controversy, I've not yet had a chance to see it, so I can't really place that anywhere currently. But I will give you my top 5, in which I'm pretty strong in my feelings for these top 5. So I doubt that Disclosure Day would even nudge him out just because these ones are like all-time favorites for me. So without further ado, I'm going to start out with number 5. And of course, this film, in the 70s, I was in, like, my mom and my babysitter would take me to the drive-ins and movies all the time. So 70s were a very important time in my life in terms of movies and how that kind of shaped me as a entertainment lover or lover of entertainment in general, especially with the films. And Spielberg was a big part of that. Now, this particular film, though, I didn't see till about 20 or so years later. And then when Mr. Lambert and I did this movie on his Retro Movie Classic show, it was the first time he had seen it. So this would be, of course, Spielberg's first film he ever did, which is, of course, Duel. And this is a 1971 directorial debut. The plot centers on David Mann, played by Dennis Weaver, a mild-mannered, non-confrontational traveling salesman who innocently overtakes a rusted, smoke-spewing Peterbilt semi-truck on a 2-lane highway, unwittingly triggering a relentless homicidal case of road rage. The film features only one primary, fully realized character in David Mann, a vulnerable everyman forced to shed his meekness and fight for his survival. So this film obviously is one that's kind of like your earliest stages of road rage. Like it centers on that. And the thing that makes it so interesting is that you never see who the trucker is. Like, you see his face and maybe the glasses in the mirror, but we never get to know who it is. And that happens all the way to the end. So, like, despite all that, it's pretty crazy that, Spielberg has this way of building tension in his films, and then he takes you on these emotional roller coasters a lot of times. And so this film, although kind of like bare bones in terms of like the stuff he would end up doing later, kind of shows you where he is at in terms of building suspense and thrillers and stuff like that. Now to number 4. This one, again, was another one I saw at the drive-in. There was one other I saw first, but in 1977, just kind of around time Star Wars came out and stuff like that. I saw this film, and of course, I'm talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And this is obviously a movie about a man played by Richard Dreyfuss, who is not unknown to Spielberg's stuff. And he encounters a close encounter with a UFO and, aliens. And so, but also talks about some other people in the film who also come across these different interactions with UFOs and aliens over the course of years. So, but this is one of the films where, like, when I was like 7 years old seeing this, kind of had me scared a little bit. And then even when I found out that the Devil's Tower in Wyoming was actually a real place, I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that because I was in Colorado at the time. So knowing that that was only up north, I could have just drove up there. And so I did pass by it once. It's a very cool looking place in general. But as a kid, you're kind of like, the way the movie rolls early on is kind of scary, creepy. A kid gets abducted and toys move on their own. It gives you those earlier signs of how whenever there's aliens or ships are nearby, like the power goes out and stuff like that. But by the end of it, it's a little bit more emotional, a little more happy, which is a weird thing because you wouldn't expect it. But again, that shows you the versatility and dynamic ability of Spielberg and his movie making and what he's able to do to bring across different emotions. And I'm sure a lot of the guys who are doing their show today would agree with that. And number 3, again, Spielberg was one of those people that would could see foresight, like foreboding down the road. Like he could see things of where to go with movie making. He was always like a pioneer of sorts to try different things. And if you've ever followed any of it or seen any of his films, you'll notice that like some films are a little bit more straightforward, but other ones you can see that he's trying different things to bring things to life that we wouldn't expect. And I think it was in 93, Jurassic Park was like really the first to bring life to dinosaurs again. So like you were able to see, like usually in the past it was all done like stop motion and stuff like that with Ray Harryhausen, but now you have where it's animatronics and the ability for to bring these dinosaurs to life, which was really a big thing to build up to Jurassic Park. I remember from all the promotional thing was huge. So basically, Jurassic Park is basically telling the story of Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, who, and then of course a cynical mathematician played by Ian Malcolm, which is Jeff Goldblum, which is amazing in these films, by the way. They end up going to a park. They get invited to a park that's been created. I forget the name of the gentleman that's running it, but basically he's told them that, they discovered how to remove DNA from mosquitoes of the past, insects of the past, and combine it with like modern DNA to recreate dinosaurs. And they're able to do that. But the problem is because of that mixture of DNA, it leads to problems of both reproduction, which wasn't expected initially, and then also just because we've never experienced living with dinosaurs, like the temperaments and how smart or dumb they are and what they can do. And so obviously, and then you have some other shit like a guy that's trying to steal from the company, and that sort of sets everything off into a big collapse and catastrophe. But the movie itself was such a spectacle. It was an amazing movie. Made a lot of money. I think I must have went like 2 or 3 times to see the film, just because of how good it was. And it was an experience. And even when I took my nephew, even though he kind of got restless, he was still really enjoying it a lot. So overall, great movie. I actually kind of like Lost World a little more than Jurassic Park, but I can't not pay tribute to the film that really kicked it all off, and that's basically Jurassic Park. Now, my number 2 is interesting because I didn't expect this film really to be this high on my list, but the more I think about it, it's probably the second film in Spielberg's catalog that I would watch the most, and sometimes more often. And it's actually a film that kind of like speaks to almost Spielberg's entire career. And I guess here it is. Number 2 is Ready Player One. This film is so much fun. It does, because I am an entertainment person. I love games. I love movies. I love nostalgia. This is set in a dystopian 2045 where humanity escapes a bleak reality inside a massive virtual reality universe called the Oasis. Basically, this follows Wade Watts as Parzival, orphan teenager hunting for an Easter egg hidden within the game's deceased creator, James Halliday. Whoever finds it wins total control of Oasis. And so, of course, Wade Watts is battling the corporate heads of IOI to try to like gain control of this game, because everybody, all adults, kids, are all playing it. Even at the beginning, you see them. It's almost like if they're not working or not. It's like, but it's a way for people in this dystopian time to kind of like get an escape. This is what the Oasis brings. You can be anything you want. You can be Batman climbing hills. You can be King Kong. You can be anything. And that's the wonderful thing about it. However, the bad side of that is if you are poor and you owe money to IOI and stuff like that, you have to work it off, which is a really weird way of doing it, but it's like labor camps, really, basically. So but there is that power play by the corporate heads to gain control of this, and so of course Parzival, along with 4 other friends inside the game, go and they start finding keys. Now again, this movie is one of these ones where it's fun, it's got good jokes, it's tension, there's even some violence, but there's also some very sad and emotional moments in here. I really can't, like, the ending with Halliday is one of my favorite parts of the movie, just because Wade basically asks him, like, are you really dead? And he's like, yes. And then he goes, what are you? And he just smiles and says, thanks for playing my game. So my thing is, like, that moment is like, what does that tell us about what is Spielberg really telling us there? Is like somehow the spirit of Halliday was able to interlodge with the game, because the game was already preset to how whoever won it, there would be this sequence of how you'd be awarded the egg and the contract and all that stuff. So of course Simon Pegg is in this, which is great. Just a wonderful, wonderful film. Still one of my favorites to this day. So fun. Which leads us to number 1. I'm sorry if I dragged too long here, Kevin, but I'm down to number 1 here. I have a feeling for most of the guys on your team today, probably going to end up with this one at number 1. It's really the one that kind of just kick-started Steven Spielberg's career. No matter how much it was a pain in the ass, no matter how many problems he ran into, and no matter how the movie turned out as opposed to how he wanted it to turn out, it just turned out to be gem. It changed not just movie making as far as blockbusters, but it changed how people in real life approached sharks.
Yep.
Sharks.
Yeah.
So obviously, the warning tag's like, just when he thought it was safe to go back in the water. This really set the tone. But of course, Benchley, who had written the book for, of course, I'm talking about Jaws, he didn't really want that kind of response to what was happening with sharks, because it became like, fearful and made people really terrified. And, the thing is, even today, I've talked about a couple of videos on my channel where some shark attacks have happened. And I've always had an interest in sharks, especially, since I had been bitten by one when I was 10. So I know the feeling of that fear, and even though it may not happen on the regular, there's sharks that swim around people every day and they wouldn't even know it. But if you're just unlucky enough to be attacked, it does leave a mark, and it does leave this sense of fear. I mean, even so much so that when I would go swimming in a pool at night, just a swimming pool, like you still think there's something in the pool. It's that crazy. But obviously, Jaws talks about a New England resort town, Amity Island. Local police chief Martin Brody, who harbors a deep fear of the water, is determined to close the beaches, but he's faced resistance from the town's short-sighted mayor, Larry Vaughn, who fears economic collapse during the lucrative tourist season because, of course, attacks start happening. First, they were registered as shark attacks, and then the town tries to play it off as just a boat attack or a boat accident. And therefore, you get this tug of war between the town's citizens and the police chief as they try to make the beaches safer. So, and it comes at some cost to some people because of how hard-headed the mayor is and where it leads to eventually. But eventually, you get this great it's almost like a Moby Dick moment. You got Quint there, Brody, and then of course Hooper, played by Dreyfuss. And it is like a modern Moby Dick. Like they're going to go out and get their white whale, in this case, the great white. And at the time, you could sit there and say, wow, these special effects are amazing. Because initially, Spielberg wanted to show the shark most of the time. But because of the problems they ran into with the mechanical shark, they had to approach it differently. But because of John Williams' score, it really set the mood that you never really saw the shark except for maybe a glimpse under the water or whatever, or a fin here or there. But overall, it wasn't until the end when you actually saw, you're just in awe of what's going on. So even now that you look back, the shark may look a little dated, but the way the film shot and the tension and the build-up, it's still the best Spielberg movie, in my opinion, because of what it accomplished. And even if Spielberg himself said, that was so long ago, I've done so many better films since then, maybe technically, maybe story-wise or written or character-wise, but at the end of the day, for me, this is the one that really set him apart because, again, he tried something no one else really wanted to try, and then it didn't just shape movie-making history, it shaped human society, how we approached real-life things, because this was a real-life threat, and it still is. To a degree with sharks, you still take that risk. So the fact that this movie lingers so long after the fact and always getting played around July 4th is really kind of a testament to how long this movie has stood the test of time. So there you have it. My top 5. I'm sorry that I dragged on a little bit, but hope you enjoyed it, and I hope your discussion goes well. Thank you, gents, and I will see you next time on the Metal Time Radio podcast.
All right.
Nice. That was a good top
Awesome.
5.
That was.
I liked how he made. I liked how he basically said about Jaws and how it did change society. I said earlier how it did create the box office genre, but as he said, there is a real threat there with sharks that's never going to go away, and so even 150 years down the line, I'm sure Jaws will still be mentioned somewhere down the line because of its historical significance.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been an absolute blast of a stream. I've enjoyed listening to all of you gentlemen and your opinions. If people want to know what my top 5 of Jaws is, not Jaws, Steven Spielberg. Jaws,
I think you already gave it away.
My top 5 of Steven Spielberg. Then you have to check out, coming tomorrow, I'm ranking all 37 Steven Spielberg films.
Wow.
Wow.
That is going to be launched tomorrow on the entertainment headquarters. But, who knows? I might surprise you with my choices and where they land. But I'm going to ask all of my guests your final thoughts on Steven Spielberg and where do you think his place in film history will land? We'll start with Mr. Daniel Miller.
I think Spielberg has undoubtedly solidified himself as a legend of cinema and also as a legend of storytelling as well. Spielberg has been and continues to be a huge inspiration on filmmakers from all around the world, and even Takashi Yamazaki, who directed Godzilla -1, he had the opportunity to meet Spielberg, to which he said, "It's like meeting God," in that sense. So, just those words alone really uh, conveys just how much uh, gravitas and uh, how big of a reputation Spielberg has. As a filmmaker, I have to say he is one of the all-time greats. He's pioneered the summer blockbuster. He's given us uh, he's had actors with fantastic performances. Roy Scheider was believable as Chief Brody in Jaws.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
Alan Grant was played very brilliantly by
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill. That's right.
Yeah. He's also an act. He's all an actor. So he's also a director who basically, when you had like a young actor or an actor who had done, some really strong roles, but maybe
Yeah,
hadn't like broke the ceiling to the next level of the career, he's
that's
helped
right.
to defy some of those actors. And the one that stands out to me is Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He
In
also
Saving Private Ryan, he basically
Mm.
helped launch him to the next level of his career.
yeah, he's also had great performances with the likes of Henry Thomas in E.T.
Mhm.
His direction of Henry Thomas and all of the other child actors was just fantastic. Absolutely made Elliot believable. It made the neighborhood seem like a genuine neighborhood and not like another set on a movie screen. Uh, his collaboration with John Williams is undoubtedly one of the single biggest pieces of his cinema magic. Because if it weren't for Spielberg's visuals, there wouldn't be Williams' music. And if it weren't for Williams' music, Spielberg's visuals wouldn't have the power and majesty as they do now.
Yeah, I've always said when it comes to their 30 plus year, friendship and working friendship is Steven Spielberg draws a black and white picture,
Mm,
but John Williams adds the colour.
yes.
That's how I would describe them.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. E.T. and Close Encounters and Jurassic Park are perfect examples of that.
Yes.
yes. Jake Hall, your overall thought to Steven Spielberg and about his legacy?
Like Daniel said, he's going to be the greatest of all time. He's basically the GOAT. He's a legend, an icon.
Mhm.
He's directed some of the greatest films in movie history. He's a good storyteller. He knows when to use good effects and where to place them at. Like in Jurassic Park, he knew where to use the CGI. He knew where to use the animatronic effects. Um, all in all, he, with his as many accomplishments as he's done and all that, he will stand the test of time even after we're gone. I mean, he is one of the greatest directors of all time, and he is a goat. So,
Jedi Granville?
Well, the two gentlemen pretty much wrapped it up. I mean, all I can say, like Hitchcock before him, like Kurosawa before him, even with Francis Ford Coppola, he's made his mark on cinema forever, and it can't be forgotten. It can never be erased because he's made that much of an impact. It's just like a comet, hitting the ground. It's like it's staying there. That impact will never leave ever because that shows how much of an inspiration, how much of an impact he's actually done. I mean, And speaking of which, believe it or not, Spielberg has one particular acting credit under his belt. And I bet most people don't know where that's from, but I'll just go ahead and say it. He's in the film Blues Brothers, believe it or not, for
Yes.
a few seconds, but
Yeah.
very effective.
Yeah.
But the
It
thing
really
about
is.
yeah.
Right as he opens up the building to the door to the tax office.
Mm-hmm. He's like, can I help you with something? Eating a sandwich, just basically doing that, But the thing about him is that you are never going to forget this man because he's unforgettable. His films are always going to be his own signature. Everything he touches pretty much turns to gold. I mean, and as Jake said, like even when we're long gone, it's like he's still going to have that brand of impact on many generations later on because that shows how impactful he really is. And like I say, we've mentioned, we've done influential directors before, but he's one of the most influential, and thankfully his impact has left a great taste in our minds. It just won't go away. He just is.
Well, my 2 cents is very simple. I said it at the beginning of the stream. For many people, this man, Steven Spielberg, is the director of their lives. He is the director of their childhood, and he has been one of the most influential directors of all time. He is a man that has vision. He's a man that knows how to tell stories. He is a man that knows how to make you feel emotions, alongside with his partnership with, of course, John Williams. His cinematography is some of the best cinematography that you'll ever see on screen. It's cinematography that cannot be rivaled, and the newer generations of directors like Christopher Nolan, Ryan Coogler will all have, been inspired by his work and his, cinematography and filmography. He is a legend, and for as long as I remember, he will always be probably the most influential director of all time.
Yeah.
So with that said, Mr. Jedi Granville, what is coming up to Jedi Granville Productions?
Well, I actually got a good mixed bag of goodies coming up on my channel. Not to, yes, it's very good because, like I say, coming this Sunday, it was supposed to happen this past Sunday, but unfortunately, some things came up, But I will be doing a so-called rehash in terms of we're going to do me and Mr. Sci-Fi Century. We're going to be discussing the '84 sci-fi film, Michael Crichton directed film, Runaway, which hopefully, it's one of those classics that's probably not a classic, but it is, because it's the 80s, and 80s was just crazy back then. And next Saturday is going to be a real fun mixed bag because, as I mentioned before, I've got this itch where I'm going to be discussing, top or talk about composers. And one of them is Jerry Goldsmith. And I'm going to be discussing, hopefully whoever joins me, top 10 favorite Jerry Goldsmith scores, because let's be honest, he's had a mixed bag of amazing music in the past. And like I say, if he was still alive, he'd probably be like John Williams, still cranking out something, but anyway.
Well, speaking of John Williams, you have to admit, he's 94-year-old. The fact that he came out of retirement and did the score for Disclosure Day at his age showed it's mind over matter. Because, I don't know another 94-year-old that would come out of retirement and film and sit in front of an orchestra in a huge auditorium and put together amazing music at his age. Like, obviously the Disclosure, the soundtrack or score isn't his strongest. A bit like with Disclosure, Day not being Steven Spielberg film's best film, but it's memorable, it's enjoyable, and it still has that true essence of John Williams.
Exactly. And that following Sunday, I have something, like I say, I have something coming up, because it's my birthday, and I'm going to do a special, as I call it, my special Jedi Grand Vale production presentation. I will not tell you what it is, but if you're itching to find out, you have to go and watch it. So anyway, and then since G-Fest is coming up, me and Mr. Daniel Miller and Mr. Kevin Lambert are going to be heading that way the next following week. That Friday on the 3rd, I'm going to be doing a talk about my 10th anniversary of G-Fest, because that was my first time going to G-Fest. And let me just say, the experience was an overwhelming thing. And I have to say, the person that was then is no longer now. And you'll see when you watch it, because like I say, it's, and I believe Daniel Miller, that was his first interaction with G-Fest as well. So unfortunately,
yeah.
Yes, I'm just sorry we didn't really collab, get together like we should have. But I mean, like I say, I was a different person then. But now 10 years later, I can reminisce and just say, this is what I was then, and now you can see why I've been, involved in something. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what a snake will tickle do there. I'm joking.
Okay.
No. But literally, I have seen you evolve in the most beautiful way, Walter, over the last 3 or 4 years that I've met you. Yeah. I've seen you evolve, I've seen you change, I've seen you grow, and I've seen you become a much stronger person.
Yeah.
And I love the fact every day we talk, every day we have, communicate, I see like this new element added to you. Like, I feel like your life seems lighter, but in the most joyous way possible.
Yes.
That all the burdens or the stresses of like the past are now disintegrating, and you're now just living your life to the full.
Which all you can do.
Yes. And that is the most beautifulest thing of it all. Yes. Mr. Daniel Miller, what is coming to your channel, or what is coming from you in the future?
As of right now, there's nothing immediate coming to the channel, but I do regularly contribute to Huntingdon's community radio, Ooze Valley Radio, and I've been contributing to their soap drama, Huntsford. And I've recently, this Sunday, gone last week, have voiced a new character for the second time, and the episodes are now online and available to listen. In the future, I will be working on some more of my original stories. I have quite a few of them in development as we speak. And after G-Fest, I have some ideas for live streams such as this, hoping to include some of you guys, if not more, of the guests who attend the entertainment headquarters. So I'm really looking forward to see, being able to do that in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and J. Cole, you're a regular guest here on the entertainment headquarters. We're going to be getting together this Sunday to talk all things The Boroughs, the show that was created and executive produced by the Duffer Brothers, which, was quite an interesting show. If you're a fan of, obviously, their previous work, Stranger Things, or the film Cocoon, I think you might get a kick out of that. But that's what's coming to the entertainment headquarters. And then in the beginning of July, there will be a few things come our way. But first and foremost, we're going to get G-Fest out the way.
Mhm.
And once G-Fest gets out the way, we will be getting together to do on Kaiju Connections, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Oh yeah.
And there might be a few more surprises coming your way. But, you know, this is the entertainment headquarters. We have been talking all things Steven Spielberg, and it's been a blast with these amazing individuals in front of me, Mr. Jedi Granville, Daniel Miller, the Professor, and of course, Kaiju Enigma Ultra Jake. Please like, share, and subscribe to Jedi Granville. Please like, share, and subscribe to Dan Filliman. And Jake, you just keep doing your thing.
There you go.
And if you want, please like, share, and subscribe to the entertainment headquarters. Long live Steven Spielberg. You're the best. And we'll catch us all at the next one. Take care, everybody.
Phone home.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.